Hello, dear XboxEra listeners, and welcome to the impromptu episode 35 with me, Sikamikanico, and my co-host, Shpeshal Ed. Can we, before we get into any of this, can we just throw the no swearing rule out the window?
We might need to.
Okay. Holy shit!
If I sound very, if my volume is quite low, it's because it's right now. It's 20 to 7 in the morning here. Everyone's still asleep. Had to get up pretty early for this one.
Yeah.
So
worth
I
getting up for.
apologise if my voice sounds a bit funny.
It's been a wild 12 hours, so I kind of just want to frame this, right? So obviously, for those watching / listening, it was dropped today. Microsoft dropped the literal nuclear megaton bomb that they have acquired Bethesda, or rather they've acquired Zenimax, which
the
owns
parent company.
Yeah. Now,
yeah, the word megaton gets thrown around a lot.
This is a real megaton.
Quite loosely. This is actually probably a genuine one.
It's insane to me, and it was funny because I was sitting there and I saw there was a random tweet from this guy that was talking about pre-orders, and there was this big rumor going around from 4chan that Microsoft were going to drop $50 off of the pre-order prices for the Series S and the Series X. And yeah, okay, I doubt it. Like, Microsoft are pretty confident and it's a fair price for both machines. Don't see it happening. Dismissed it. And then people started saying, they usually, if they're going to release news, it's 2 p.m. Now, I'd posted and created a kind of Xbox history look-back video, like from the Xbox One and Broken Promises and stuff. And I suddenly saw that the UK PR team, who obviously I work with, were up and at it very early. But then the US PR team were up uncommonly early. Like, I'm talking... it must have been 6 a.m., 5 a.m. their local time. So I was seeing, Greenberg and some other folks online and responding, reacting to stuff. And they were all in very good spirits. So my spidey sense was tingling. And then I got some rumblings from a UK source here, literally 15 minutes before the drop. And I was like, okay, something... I didn't know what it was. I had no idea it was on the scale that it was. I was like, something's coming.
I might check the DM I got, because I got a DM. Where is it? I actually got a DM saying, where was it? So I'm trying to think what time it was announced.
For you?
Okay, so the DM I'm looking at is half an hour before it was announced.
Wow.
Wasn't saying that Bethesda's being bought. The DM says, what is MS announcing today?
It was a very tight ship.
Not sure. I'm hearing something, but not sure. And they're just like, yeah, there is something happening. My own source was like, I don't know what it actually is.
Yeah.
And they were quite shocked.
And well. Let's be honest, I think the industry is pretty shocked. Like, I need to try and put this into context for folks, because now this has happened. Obviously, you've seen forum posts, you've seen the Twitterverse react to this news, and obviously any Xbox fan is pretty pumped, right? We now know that every single game from Zenimax Studios, so every single studio, so we're talking id, we're talking Bethesda, we're talking
such a good one.
Machine Head Games.
It's funny. I just watched that Netflix special, High Score.
Yeah, it's still on my watch list.
Fucking awesome if you haven't seen it. It is so good. And I think it's the last episode. They talk about id and Doom, and they've got John Romero on, and
the grandfathers of modern
having
just
FPS. Watched that, and now this comes along.
It's crazy, but
yeah, I gotta say, don't I look like a bit of a fucking twat?
Well, we'll get into that. Because you were right about some things, but we'll try and stay somewhat structured. So I think it's important we try and put the money into the context here. So Microsoft have spent $7.5 billion on this acquisition, and has immediately bumped their first party studios to, I think, 23, and that's not including some sub teams and other
Yeah,
smaller units
I
within.
thought it was 21, but it's
23.
Apparently it's 23.
Or possibly more if you count all those subsidiary things.
Mm.
And all day today we've seen on forums in the Twitterverse, Sony need to counter, and man, like,
Doesn't quite work that way.
it doesn't quite work like that, guys, because Microsoft just spent pretty much the entirety of their profits for the whole gen. Something along. I mean, I'm ad-libbing here. I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, what was their operating? Their market cap? It's like 90 billion. Microsoft just dropped a tenth of that.
Yeah.
Just in cash, cold hard cash, right? So this isn't on the same level as buying an exclusive or money hatting. This is the money hat to end all money hats.
The thing is, like, Sony's market cap is 96 billion. I think their cash on hand is 33 billion. But that, just because Sony has 33 billion cash on hand, they're not going to just turn around and spend a quarter of it on one studio or a publisher or whatever it is. Like, Microsoft's market cap is 1.5 trillion and their cash on hand is something ridiculous. Like,
yeah, it's a lot.
I can't. It's just some. Like, they're not in the same. Like, if we're talking Microsoft and Sony now, not Xbox and PlayStation, if we're talking Microsoft and Sony, they're not in the same league as each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's a silly. Like, and remember, this deal's been in the works for like
2 years.
Who knows? Probably a couple of years.
Someone posted
Sony's just going to turn around now. Sony's not going to just turn around now, pick up the phone, and like start ringing people to acquire.
Yeah, well,
that's not.
I saw a post from someone. I can't remember if they work for Microsoft or if they work for Zenimax, but they knew this deal was on the cards since 2018. FanFest 2018.
I think. Wasn't that a joke though?
No.
I thought that was a joke tweet.
No, she said she'd been keeping the secret for 2 years. I mean, maybe it was, but I read through the thread and it seemed genuine enough to me, and would be in a position to know.
Either way, these deals don't happen overnight.
No, and certainly not in the next couple of weeks.
Like the Bethesda rumor had been there before. Yeah. It's not new.
But I think people have dismissed it entirely, right? We
of course. I mean,
we had no idea.
I dismissed WB based on the fact that I thought Microsoft would never take on that many staff in one hit. It's fucking stupid, wasn't it?
What do we know?
They just took on like triple the staff.
Well, and apparently they're keeping as many of them as they can, so they're not looking to make mass layoffs, from what I understand. So,
well,
I don't know how long that will last, but
yeah, because so Bethesda is obviously a publisher.
Yep.
They're not just a bunch of development studios. Now, Microsoft is also a publisher. Double Fine just closed their publishing arm down.
Yeah.
What reason would Bethesda have to keep their publishing arm open?
The only thing I can think is you might have a lot more work on your plate now that you have the capability to release games, pretty much a AAA title every quarter. You might have a bit more on your plate, so you might need some more staff. So hopefully, because we've got to think about the human cost of this, right? Before we get into what's great for us as consumers of video games, and particularly as fans of Xbox, because it's not great for everybody, right? Let's be super clear about that. But there is a human cost element.
Hold on. Everyone has a monster PC, don't they?
Only if you're a forum arguing to be right on the
Everyone
internet.
has a monster PC. Like, you can put together a PC that beats the Series X for like $150.
No, you just buy the new NVIDIA GPU and plug it straight into your TV.
Everyone should have a PC, so there's no stress for anyone. It's fine.
We'll talk about the salt perhaps in a minute, because, man, there's some seasoning out there. I need a drink. But wow, it's just been a bumper day, and as an Xbox fan, and I'm not even particularly a huge RPG fan.
No, neither am
I am a massive shooter fan, because I lack the cognitive capacity to think about my decisions apart from blasting people in the face. And now I've got the developers of the Wolfenstein games, Doom, Quake, Rage,
Prey,
Commander Keen.
Dishonored.
Massive shout out as well to, I think, Mike Mika. He developed iDarb. If you remember, it draws a red box, which I love,
Yes, I've got
and I
that.
still love it. And
I've got that.
the only
Fun
thing
game.
they need to do is add online multiplayer, because without it, it's dead in the water, and that's why it's never had much
I
of a
thought it
following.
had it.
It had online multiplayer in that if you had 4 people at your house and another people had 4 people, you could play a 4v4, but it didn't have 8 player. You could all be on a separate machine to join the team multiplayer, which is
okay.
stupid. But I love that game. He actually posted like, let's talk about Commander Keen. He posted on Twitter, and I thought like, it'd be great. But
there's
such a
there's a
wealth
lot
of
of IP. There's a lot of IP they own now. Like, and now one of my first thoughts was, damn it, I just bought Doom Eternal on sale.
It's about to come to Game Pass forever.
It's going to come to Game Pass. I just bought it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, now they're the king of shooters, and arguably with Bethesda, the king of
RPGs.
RPGs. Now we're
RPGs.
even at the potential to have Fallout New Vegas 2 is now a legitimate possibility. Obsidian's reaction to the news today was hilarious. They were like, yeah, all right, well, let's go.
And something else that one of my, I'll put my hand up, I was wrong. I said they're not going to acquire a Japanese studio. They just did in Tango. They own the Evil Within now, which is awesome. So it's almost like they've got their own little
horror
Resident Evil competitor, I guess.
Yeah,
probably the original creator of Resident Evil, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, but yeah.
The scope and scale of this, people have called this an industry, monumental shift, and it is, because
it is.
This is Microsoft. Put this into context. Microsoft in 2017, you could clearly see, or even 2016, you could clearly see that they did not have the budget and the resources, and the investment from Microsoft was not behind them. And I think Phil Spencer has been quite candid about that. He was like, I had to go, why are we doing this? And then he went back and he's argued with Satya Nadella, okay, if we're gonna do gaming, we go all in on gaming.
Do it properly.
This is Microsoft going all in on gaming, all right? They have, I think he was quoted in 2018, we want to be, our commitment to having a leading first-party organisation is paramount, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, well, they do now.
The commitment is paid through. I don't think anyone now at this point who's doubted his time at the helm. He just says a lot of words. I'm sorry, you have to go and eat some crow. The guy has reinstated power as the priority, reinstated decent technology that is focused and optimized on games, and has built. I don't care if you think he needs to build it by hand or if he goes out and buys it. It's all about his platform, and he's done it. And now, as an Xbox customer, we get to reap the benefits of this.
Yeah. I have to admit, I did
boring.
doubt a lot of his decisions. I doubted a lot of Microsoft's legitimate commitment to gaming.
I've been silenced
with a lot of the stuff they were doing, but probably need to shut the fuck up now about that.
Just gotta get a plate of crow, start chowing down. Hilariously,
Having said that though, in the episode we literally just recorded like a couple of days ago,
day before yesterday,
I was asked about Starfield, and people brought up Starfield, and then on the forum they replied saying, I thought it was weird you mentioned Starfield. I'm like, well, I said it was half prediction, half had heard a few things. And then Imran Khan, that's his name?
Yep.
Posted on Twitter that, yes, the talks with Sony were real about Starfield. They were looking to lock away Starfield.
Amazing.
I had heard it a little while ago, but even the person that mentioned it to me, it was very in passing. I don't think there was meat to it enough to say, hey, I'm hearing Starfield's going to be money-headed, maybe mention it. I've known for a while that there were rumblings about Starfield and just never said anything. But then when the showcase came along and we were doing predictions, I thought, maybe I'll throw it in there. If they're doing Final Fantasy, maybe they're doing Starfield too.
Man.
So, it's not happening obviously now, but the talks were there.
You've got to wonder, what are the people leading that negotiation must be thinking, fuck. Like, what do you do? Like, Microsoft have just come out and like just completely. It's phenomenal.
And allegedly, it's not over yet.
It isn't over yet, for sure.
Allegedly, it's not over yet.
We're hearing rumblings of 2 more at least acquisitions.
Studios or publishers?
I've heard that this was the biggest of the bunch, so I'm going to go ahead and think it's just a couple more studios now. 25's a nice even number, I guess. Microsoft, please stop buying the entire gaming industry. People will start to get nervous.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, we are hearing.
I think they're beyond nervous now.
Yeah, there are a lot of concerns out there.
We've reached meltdown, not just nervousness.
Yeah, the meltdowns have been, they've been something to witness. But
on the record though, since we're talking about Salt and console wars,
love it.
This doesn't. In the immediate future, this doesn't change much. Like, you're not going to see a swathe of people abandoning their PlayStation 5 pre-orders.
No.
For an Xbox.
This is a long game play.
This is a more long-term play because let's remember, they've already said that they're going to honour the existing contracts.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. So the hilariousness,
which obviously means that Microsoft are now kind of publishing 2
Sony timed
PlayStation
exclusives.
5 timed exclusives. But my guess would be going forward, after these contracts have been honoured, you're going to start to see a lot of those IPs being locked away now.
Yep.
To Xbox PC with whatever the Switch can run.
Yeah. Well,
I think they will continue.
I read a thing on Nintendo Live today, a quote from Phil, that he says he wants to reset the expectations because he says he kind of is like getting a bit irked. Not I'm paraphrasing, so don't take that as gospel, but he was conscious that consumers were like, oh, this would be perfect for Switch. I wonder if Microsoft will do it. And he says he's worked with creator-led teams like Moon Studios, who recently shadow dropped Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Congrats to them. Apparently that's been very well received. Didn't think it was possible. They've optimized the shit out of it, 60 FPS on the Switch. That
Switch Pro needs to hurry up and get here now.
It does, but he actually said, I need to reset expectations with my customers, Xbox customers, that what I do is for them. So I think that is, in other words, and this is where I think we need to be super. Microsoft will be clear about this, but this is what I think you can expect. And Ed, you can tell me if you disagree, but I think you can expect to see things like Elder Scrolls Online, like anything that already exists, is a large multiplayer world, is going to remain supported,
like
coming
Minecraft.
out, like Minecraft. Anything that is a single player IP, Microsoft want you in their ecosystem. There is no way in hell I see them publishing. It doesn't matter how big you think it is, dear listener. If you say, yeah, we're publishing Skyrim 2 exclusively to Xbox and PC, PlayStation fans, even the diehard ones, are probably going to pay attention. Same for when Starfield rolls out and it's exclusive to Xbox and PC.
Yeah.
Any new IP
Doom,
going forward,
any future Doom game, Wolfenstein, Rage if it gets a third one, Quake.
Yeah. The amount of IP they have is bonkers.
Yeah,
and it also frees
Quake's
up these studios. These new studios can look at the Microsoft IP, like stuff that I haven't been able to play for years that hasn't had a look in, like Mechasalt. Like imagine Machine Head Games like, yeah, we're kind of bored with making a shooter, but we do like mechs and stuff. Let's make Mechasalt.
I've already seen chatter about Give ID Halo.
Yeah, I saw Give Arcane Studios. Arcane, Dishonored.
Dishonored.
Give them Perfect Dark.
Yes.
I mean, but we already know the initiative are doing something in that sphere.
And Tango, like the Japanese studio now, like. I'd love to see a big budget Evil Within 3 now. That full on tries to take on Resident Evil. Like that would be.
It's a pretty amazing moment if you're an Xbox fan. It's just, I'm still kind of shell shocked about it. I've been spending a lot of my free time this evening reading through reactions and reading excited fans' posts. The discussion on the XboxEra forums was really solid. For the most part, we had a few reaction threads we had to shut down.
Oh, okay.
And a few troll posts. Some salt was leaked out, and there are some legitimate concerns, right? In that the consolidation of the industry isn't a good thing, right? Because this is a creative-led industry, and if you put a bunch of money men in the middle of it, which already arguably is, I mean, I would personally say if you look at Ubisoft, not only their game output, and that's not to disparage anyone that works at Ubisoft that isn't doing things that are frankly sickening to me, but their whole corporate culture has been about homogenizing these games into these very similar templates that are just mass produced over and over and over and over. And yeah, you might get a few bells and whistles here, you might get the combat's been redesigned there, but it's just the same shit, right? And human beings are predictable. We fear change. We like the same stuff. So for a while they'll sell very well, but eventually we will tire. And I think that is a studio that is, I watched their Ubisoft Forward, and there was nothing there that really spoke creatively to me and got me.
I did see one thing that got me interested, and that was Immortals.
I know Phoenix Immortals does look.
For me, Immortals looked like
fun.
OG God of War mixed with Breath of the Wild, and I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah, but
I'm in.
Yeah, it's just that's the concern, that consolidation of when every developer is working for this massive company and there's no more imagination left in it. It's all got to be sanitized, and committees have got to approve stuff. That would be a concern, and I think it's a legitimate one to have. Having said that, the evidence from people I know at Microsoft Studios, from conversations I've had, is that Phil doesn't force that kind of change, and they've also been public and said they're not touching how Bethesda operates, and I think the Microsoft of old has learned their lesson from previous acquisitions like Nokia, Skype, where they came in and they messed around too much. These companies are working. You bought them while they were working. Let them continue to do what they do. Just pay for everything. That's all you got to do. Yeah. And if they can continue in that vein, then I think it's going to be a bumper time for everybody.
Yeah, but this is different though. This wasn't purchasing an indie studio that now has more confidence and financial backing. This is a different play. Like, another thing that I think I haven't really seen spoken about is the implications for something like GameStack. So they now own ID Tech 6.
Wow.
They now have engines. They own engines now. Let's not forget. And ID Tech 6 is...
That's a very good point.
Pretty good engine.
Yeah, Doom Eternal ran beautifully.
That's what I mean. They own that engine now.
Yes, they do.
So that sort of stuff can be incorporated into GameStack.
Yeah.
There's the implications are. It's one of those things where it'll start to come to you in the cold light of day, and for me, it's too early for that. So I'm not going to think of everything right now. But
no. But we were asked by our patrons and the XboxEra community to put together a quick podcast, so we felt duty bound to do so. And while I think of it, we just want to say a big thank you to our patrons, the tier 1s. You're all lovely, but our tier 2s and 3s, as always, we'd like to give you a shout out, as per our financial agreement. To Scarecrow121, Torn Raptor, Shadowgasm, Sowing Shade, and Blast the Bass. You guys are the real MVPs. So, yeah. God, I'm never going to get used to doing that kind of thing. Next thing you know, we're going to get a corporate sponsor, and I'm going to be like all Linus Tech Tips. This episode is brought to you by, and then I'll never be able to live for myself ever again.
That may not be as far away as you think. And speaking of, do we want to mention? Oh no, we can mention it later about the next episode.
We can mention it.
The next normal episode.
The next advertised as normal programming.
Yeah,
that one.
Weekend, fortnightly episode.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft did announce one more thing today as well, very recently, thankfully, just before we recorded. And while we're on the subject, it seems that every time we record, Microsoft drops a bombshell. No. So maybe we should
go weekly.
Phil, call us. Let's align some schedules here, buddy, because you're making our lives harder. We have to keep coming on and doing these extra episodes. Do you know how angry my wife is at me right now? There's walls to paint, there's wallpaper to strip, there's boxes to unpack. I kid. But Microsoft announced their accessories for for their launch lineup. Including a very PlayStation Blue pad, which is not my jam, but if that's your jam, go for it.
What was it called? Shock Blue.
Shock Blue, yeah.
Shock Blue.
We've bought the third.
Yeah, Shock Blue, Robot White.
Yeah, and Carbon Black or something like that.
Carbon Black?
Something like that.
And the price was good.
Yes.
They didn't up the price on them?
$60. If you're a Yank, so I presume that's probably like $64.99 for me or something. I can't remember.
I'm guessing that the controller prices in Australia will stay the same, which is about $90.
Writing is still on the wall though as to whether Microsoft will increase their first-party game prices, but we've not seen it happen yet. I think after today's news, I'm kind of like maybe it won't, especially as the pads haven't changed. But then, as you've said previously, Ed, it's the same pad that it's always been. It's just got an extra button.
The pad just basically has an extra button. But the thing is, that's where the highest margins are in the pads and stuff. So if they didn't up the price on those, despite having an opportunity to, because they could say it's new and has extra functionality, and they didn't take the chance to up the price, I guess that leads me to believe they're not going to up the price on their first-party games.
Yeah,
I guess
could be a good indicator. I think maybe if we're lucky.
Yeah.
The other thing that they announced was the Design Lab team were on hold, I think from October 31st, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yes.
Which suggests that it's going to have a little rejig of their machinery, and they'll come out swinging in 2021.
Change a few things. Yeah, well, because remember, the actual controllers themselves are a slightly different shape, slightly smaller.
Yeah.
A few little mods here and there, extra button, obviously. So they'd have to obviously redo the Design Lab stuff.
Yeah. But it's cool that they're going to bring it. They're going to bring it back because I think they've seen a lot of success with the Design Lab stuff. While I mention it, anyone that's in the Xbox community in general, be that on Twitter or on forums, will probably know some of the design work from Xbox Pope, and he's recently partnered. I'm not sure if he runs it himself, but he's partnered with Custom Controllers, and he's offering some of his bespoke designs, and it's not just a cheapo wrap. It's proper paint. It's proper painted parts. So it's a little bit pricier than you might hope, but obviously for the quality, it's probably worth it. So if you want to do something a little bit more daring than Microsoft would normally pump out, you can go and check out Xbox Pope's work. I think he's got a YouTube channel called Xbox Pope as well. So big shout out to him because he's been doing. He does some
PlayStation 5 custom designs, and it's funny. His custom designs actually make the console look less ugly.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy. Very talented guy, and I think he's from the UK as well. So my hat's off to a fellow Brit for some really good success. I wish him all the best. And in the other news, what time is it for you over there?
It's just gone 7:05. So I apologise for the garbage trucks going in the background.
Well, in 55 minutes you get to pre-order your Series X, do you not?
Yes, that's right. Just under an hour I have to now jump online on the EB's website and pre-order a Series X. Yeah.
Excited? Are you going to get both or just the Series X to start?
Just the Series X for now. I'm getting one of my spare 1S's off a cousin of mine that I've lent.
Nice. Are you trading?
Trade it in.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll trade in.
Nice.
I've decided I'm going to keep my Gears 1X. That'll go up into the daughter's room, and the Minecraft 1S will go in the son's room, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I have to wait until tomorrow morning, so I've got a good 6, 7, 8, 10 hours until I can pre-order mine. Going to be up nice and early, make sure I have a few browser tabs open. It's going to be a fun game. But to my knowledge,
I still don't think it'll be an issue.
I think Microsoft are determined to make sure every single Xbox fan out there can get a copy of the console.
A copy of the console?
A copy of the console? I don't know.
A copy of the
It's
console?
early for you, it's late for me. This is the world we live in with these blasted time zones.
I look, again, I said on the last episode, I'm sure they will most likely sell out of their pre-order allocation. But I don't foresee people having problems if they want one.
No.
Person.
I think they've been producing them for a lot longer. I think they've got no stock
That's right. I
issues.
think they've got a bit more stock.
And it's obviously for the fact that they've been able to launch a proper worldwide launch in like 37, 40 countries in one day. You know, kudos to that team for pumping
It's a
that out.
stark contrast to 2013 where they launched in like 13 countries or something like that.
Shockingly bad.
Yeah.
It's just a different ball game now. Like,
Funny that though, isn't it?
Well, people need to understand now that you've got a company with the power and the funding of Microsoft in gaming, they can do stuff. Like, they can do some serious stuff. I mean, we're talking about an organisation now that delayed arguably their biggest exclusive for their biggest franchise, for their biggest console launch ever, because they can do that. They can afford to not have it there on day one. And while you or I or any fan of Halo out there will be like, oh, that's a bit rubbish, they are now in the position where they don't have to be concerned about you know, maybe a little bit of a drop in sales or this, that and the other. They have the ability to weather those kinds of storms in a way that they never could.
Yeah.
You know, this is up there now with Office 365 and Windows and Surface. It's a money maker, and they're starting to realise it. It's like cool.
It is. It's I think now if we bring it back a bit more to Bethesda now, like I just trying to think, you know, a lot of these Bethesda single player games outside of their tent poles like Fallout and stuff, a lot of them weren't selling the best. Like Prey, Rage, stuff like that. Even Wolfenstein wasn't a huge seller.
Well, the newest Wolfenstein was, well, not my jam at all. Was it some sort of grindy Destiny-like clone?
Yeah, I'm actually still playing through the first one.
Oh, the first two, Wolfenstein New Order and Wolfenstein something Colossus.
Old Blood, New Order, Old Blood, and then the second one, whatever it is, the Colossus one, whatever.
Yeah, loved it. Loved them all.
Yeah, I'm still playing through the first one. But a lot of those games weren't massive sellers, so there was talk of, you know, is Bethesda not going to bother doing that kind of stuff anymore? Yet they persevered. But now they're under Microsoft, they have even less reason to not worry about that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see, purely from a game development perspective, how this goes. There'll be a lot of people also excited at the prospect of a Halo Doom crossover.
Yeah, I mean, Doom Guy and Master Chief linked together.
Yeah, for years we've had fan art of Doom Guy and Master Chief, and yeah, that'll be really interesting, I think.
Well, now they can make their own Super Smash Brothers. They've got all the IPs there to do it. Enough iconic ones.
They can.
Maybe we could get Rare to make a Xbox Game Studios kart racer again.
I don't know how well a lot of those Bethesda IPs would lend.
No, probably not.
To a fighter.
Killer Instincts, though. That's the perfect.
Yeah, I could see Killer Instinct taking a few of those characters, like Doom Guy.
Yeah.
BJ, Blazkowicz.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thought, right? So now we know that they've covered a lot of genres, right? So we've got shooters, we've got racing, we've got horror, we've got adventure, we've got action, we've got quirky indie, we've got imaginative
turn-based strategy, real-time strategy.
We've got all of those. The only genre we don't have is fighting. So when we talk about additional acquisitions, maybe we should start looking at those. Is there a fighting game studio out there that still remains independent?
Oh, there's smaller ones.
That's my thought. I'm just dropping it there. I have no idea. I do know the name of one of the studios. I think is definitely in talks, and it's a name we've heard before. But there's no point me repeating that rumour. We'll just have to wait and see, because it'll just make people quote this podcast and do stupid things. So I'd rather not say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think in terms of the fighting game thing. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think that's the one genre they don't really have covered, and arguably,
well, I mean, there's Killer Instinct, but that's it.
Yeah, but the studio that developed it is busy elsewhere.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, there were obviously the rumours of WB were floating around, so they would have had NetherRealm.
Can you imagine if that's tomorrow's announcement? If they do another announcement this week, I'm going to flip.
I can't dismiss stuff like that now. Like, no. If they were okay with 7.5 for Bethesda, 4 doesn't seem unreasonable for WB. You know, and again, I said they're not going to take on that many staff, so I can't really say that anymore either. I don't think WB Studios, in terms of actual manpower, I don't think WB is that big.
It's not.
I know there's a lot of studios and there's a lot of IPs and all that sort of stuff, but in terms of actual manpower, I don't think WB Games is all that big.
It's not, but I'd also argue that
compared to Bethesda,
a lot of the IP that they work on is licensed.
Yeah, but they'd get Mortal Kombat.
Is it worth it for that alone? Maybe they're just looking to buy that one studio. If Warner Brothers want to make a
Mortal
quick
Kombat.
buck.
I'm a Street Fighter guy, but Mortal Kombat is actually the better selling and bigger fighting game now.
Yeah,
it's gone past Street Fighter. Street Fighter is still.
It's the esports fighting game.
Right phrase. Yeah, it's the
professional man's fighting game.
Yeah. So you know, like the money had of Street Fighter by Sony last generation, or this generation, sorry. While Street Fighter didn't sell great, like it only just very recently slowly crawled its way to like 3 or 4 million or something, it was still the reason the PlayStation 4 became the default fighting game platform.
Yeah. I mean,
which is why it was a smart money hat.
There's some interesting studios. I mean, let's finish. Say finish. You know, knowing us, we could probably talk for another half an hour. But let's just have a look. I'm just going to press this button here, and you get to say goodbye to our beautiful faces if you're watching on YouTube, and instead you'll see the current list of every Xbox game studio now. So you know, and we know the ones we already know, right? So the homegrown 343, recently added Compulsion, Double Fine, In Exile, Mojang, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Playground Games, Rare, The Coalition, The Initiative, Turn 10, Undead Labs, World's Edge. If you don't know who they are, they're doing Age of Empires with who's the Sega owned? Is it Creative Assembly?
Yes. No. No. It's not Creative Assembly doing that.
What's
it's
Come on.
It starts with R.
Oh. God damn it! How has that escaped my brain? It's going to come to me. Relic Entertainment.
Relic.
Thank you, brain. Xbox Game Studios Publishing, but then we've got the new ones here. So we've got Alpha Dog Studios, which I believe is a mobile developer owned by Zenimax.
Maybe, yeah, because they do mobile stuff.
So, no idea what's going to happen there.
They'll take over Gears Pop.
Yeah, maybe. We've got Arcane, developers of Dishonored,
Prey.
Dishonored 2, Prey. We've got Bethesda Softworks, which is obviously your Skyrims, your Elder Scrolls, your Fallouts. We've got id, the grandfather of the FPS industry, with Doom. We've got Machine Games with Wolfenstein. Roundhouse Studios, they don't ring a bell to me. I'm not sure if I know of any of their work off the top of my
Avalanche? Head. Avalanche isn't one of them, is it?
No. Avalanche is isn't owned by these
There's
guys.
like 2 or 3 Avalanches. One of them isn't under Bethesda.
I don't think so. I might be wrong. Roundhouse,
like the Avalanche that made Rage.
I think that was contracted out. I don't think it was owned. I think that was some work for hire.
I know there's like at least 2 Avalanche.
Yeah. And then you've got Tango Gameworks, which is obviously based in Japan, and Zenimax.
Finally got a Japanese studio.
And Zenimax, who do Elder Scrolls Online. I mean, that's a lot of That's a lot of solid studios right there. Like,
Mm.
damn. What else is there
but the
to
fact
say?
that- I know, but the fact that they're allegedly not done yet.
They're definitely not
Like,
done.
how many studios are they going to end up with?
25.
I mean, oh, and by the way, hashtag 15 by 2020 was still correct because
Dude,
when you say
2020 is the end of this
by-
year. By the end of 2020. That's how I take
when
it.
you say by 2020, so hold on a second. So if I say to you, get me that report by 7 o'clock, does that mean you get it to me at 7:10 or 7:50 or 7:30?
Okay.
No,
okay,
no,
kids,
no.
he's got me.
I
He's
need it
got
by
me.
7 o'clock.
He's got me.
So 15 by 2020 was correct. When 1st of January 2020 ticked over, they had 15 studios. So I was still right there. But yes,
I learn
they have obviously-
every day that Ed really likes to be right.
they've obviously since shattered that, so that's fine. If you want to go for 30 by 2021, go for it. I won't stop you now. I won't get in your way.
25.
15 by 2020 was technically correct, and technically correct is the best kind of correct.
It is. I will make my thoughts known in that I think there are 2 more acquisitions coming, and I think we'll probably know about them before the year is out.
Yep.
Another interesting thing to think about is the amount of studios Microsoft has now. Their E3, like, they'd have enough announcements that could cover 2 other main stage publishers because they just bought one. It's just...
Yeah. Well, Bethesda did their own E3 show.
Like, God.
They always had their own E3 show.
This is a whole different generation for Microsoft now. And
I have to say, though, it's a shame that we didn't get E3 this year because Microsoft's would have been good.
What an announcement
Like,
that
it would have been an all-time...
Best,
it would have been an
E3.
all-time E3. It would have been an all-time E3. Like, it's a shame.
It is a shame.
Because this long drawn-out, drip-fed thing is...
It's not the best. Yeah, no one's had any fun. COVID, go away. We've had enough of you. I guess there's only one last thing really to mention, and that is about the next podcast episode. We've got a couple of special guests lined up for the next XboxEra podcast, and we can reveal one of them to you today. Who's joining us?
Hold on. Two guests on the next one?
No,
or
just
two
one
guests
guest.
over the next couple. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
2 guests over the next, couple. I don't want to say the other guest yet because I haven't completely ironed out the time frames. I wouldn't want to put him in a bind. But who's the guest we've got coming next week's episode, Ed?
We've got Mr. Tom Warren joining us
From The Verge.
on the next episode. Yeah, which should be good.
Which should be very entertaining and interesting because obviously he's a very learned fellow. He's been covering Microsoft and general technology for a lengthy period of time. He's also another fellow Brit, so because he's a guest, we'll be able to dictate a much more reasonable recording time for you and Figments to have to get up in the middle of the night or something like that. It's great. I love it. UK guests, bring them on. What time do you need? 8 p.m? Lovely. Can do.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So we're looking forward to that. We will, of course, to our patrons, to our community on our forums, and those that follow us in the Twitterverse, we will put a shout out for the community questions. It has, from our own admission, it's got to the point where we get too many questions now. And knowing that Tom's going to be with us, we are going to have to cherry pick. So we will obviously give first status and privilege to our patrons because they deserve it. And then we'll cherry pick the best ones. So if you're going to ask a question, make sure it's a really good one that will make us go,
yeah, because don't forget, a lot of the questions we found we cover them during the episode in a lot of cases anyway. So yeah, I mean that can, I guess, knock off a few. I mean, if you got your question answered during the episode, then it's not as much of an issue if we didn't address it directly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll
do
see how we go with that.
But yes, so
maybe we need to drop the community question request at the last minute to reduce the number of questions we keep.
We're recording in 10 minutes. You've got 10 minutes. Go.
10 minutes to give us a question.
If you one way of doing it, but so I think we've pretty much said all that we need to say. Absolutely a bumper, mad, interesting day from Xbox and team. More to come. So hold on to your butts. It's going to get crazier.
Get ready. Get ready to pre-order your Series X or S.
Yep.
Just get the X.
I'm getting both.
Yeah, I was going to, but I'm just going to stick with an X. I'll.
Yeah. Well, I think the S is going to sit in the lounge. I haven't got a 4K TV down there yet. That's the big 1080p. I'll have the 4K one up here. Makes sense for me if I can get this office sorted. But so yeah, on that note, thank you, Ed, for getting up so early and joining me as we react and talk through this news. To our community, we're glad we could service you with an additional special episode of the XboxEra Podcast. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Ciao for now.
Adios, folks.